This is Jennifer Curry, and this is an introduction to the framework for success in post-secondary writing. On a note, if you haven't yet had a chance to look over the framework before listening to the screencast, I suggest that you do that just to give yourself an orientation to what it is that we're going to be looking at fairly briefly right now. Okay, let's get started. One of the things that's important is to note who were the developers of this framework. This was a collaboration of several big hitters in writing and reading instruction. The bottom two, the National Council of Teachers of English and the National Writing Project, are big national organizations. They're K through 12. They've provided a lot of support, a lot of professional learning, a lot of wonderful publications around writing and strategies and goals for helping students write better. The Council of Writing Program Administrators is a post-secondary organization. And one of the things that they've put out is a list of outcomes for freshman composition classes that are widely used by 2-year and 4-year universities. This framework was published in the year 2011, right after the Common Core state standards, and in fact you will find that there is a big correlation between this framework and the standards themselves, in part because these organizations also participated in the development of the Common Core state standards. So let's go ahead and go through the framework, which is right here. So when we talk about the purpose of this framework, a lot of information can be found in the executive summary, but basically the point of this framework is to clearly define what college readiness means. And the audience are teachers and other stakeholders that are interested in such clarity around the definition. It is college readiness within the context of 21st century skills. And it is separated into two parts. The first part of the framework has to do with describing those habits of mind. And here you can see it says, ways of approaching learning that are both intellectual and practical that will support student success. Another way to think of habits of mind is, these are the soft skills that we're developing in students. They are measurable, they are teachable, and they will lead to student success no matter what post-secondary options they head towards. The second part of the framework explains to teachers those types of experiences that students should have within the context of writing instruction that will help foster those habits of mind. So you can see that in support of these 8 habits of mind, including curiosity, openness, and engagement, etc., students need to have regular practice developing their rhetorical knowledge, practicing critical thinking, developing flexible writing processes, and reflecting upon those. Understanding what conventions that are more general and also specific to particular disciplines are expected within different types or genres of writing. And also, this is very 21st century here, the ability to compose in multiple environments, both online, digitally, and quote-unquote paper to pencil. So you're going to do a couple of things with this framework. The first is going to be to look closely at the habits of mind. So let's go ahead and take a look at those. One of the things that I appreciate about this framework is, while the habits themselves sound sort of familiar, for example, we want to help our students become curious about the world and open to new learning and new ways of being, it is the descriptors of these particular habits of mind that are very Common Core driven, they're very inquiry based, and they're also very text based. So for example, when I'm looking at, say, curiosity, which we all know is the desire to know more about the world, you could see that in the way it's described, and we're linking inquiry to curiosity. This framework also links seeking relevant, authoritative information, recognizing the meaning and value of that information, that as a means of helping students really become more curious and uncover more questions. So as you study these habits yourself, I would really think about what makes these particular descriptions unique than maybe what you and your students are used to when thinking about developing habits of mind. All right, so we see that the habits go on to 2 pages. And then the second part of the framework has to do with describing the various types of experiences with writing, reading, and critical analysis that will be in support of the development of those habits. So as you read through these, you'll see, so for example, this is the first one, developing rhetorical knowledge. It defines it. In this case, it's really analyzing, and I love this part about acting, on understandings of audience, purpose, and context, not only when we're creating texts as writers, but also as readers and helping students uncover certain aspects of text that not only help their comprehension, but will also help their ability to read texts that come along afterwards. So you've got some information here about how that particular set of experiences works, why it is important, and then you've got this handy bulleted list here that just says things that students can do in your classroom while they are developing that particular experience. And again, as you are reviewing and digging in a little bit more deeply into the framework, I invite you to look for those parts of the framework that validate what you already know, but also might push your thinking in new direction. For example, developing knowledge of conventions is really interesting because it is going beyond, say, mechanics spelling, the way we're citing and attributing sources, but it also expands to more global concerns such as content, tone, style, organization, the various types of evidence that certain disciplines privilege over others. There's a lot of interesting things in this particular one at developing knowledge of conventions. Another thing you might uncover as you're going through this framework is just how much overlap there is between the various experiences. So for example, here I am in conventions, and it says teachers can help writers develop knowledge of conventions by providing opportunities to write, read, analyze a variety of texts from a variety of disciplines and perspectives. Well, clearly that overlaps with some aspects of developing rhetorical knowledge and critical thinking, etc., and flexible writing processes. All right, so what are you going to do with this framework is you're going to, on the haiku page, find this do something with the habits of mind. And here it tells you basically that you're going to look at those habits of mind and plan to do something that you might use with students with them and share it with others in our class. Here's some examples. You can create class norms with them. Here's an example of one using the habit of mind of persistence and really helping students and maybe even engaging them in the development of that norm themselves by having them study the habits of mind and figure out what that might look like and why it would be important. I've seen teachers use the habits of mind to write reflective questions that they use throughout the year. I've also seen them used in kind of adding to the success criteria for various assignments and tasks. That habit of mind and metacognition is particularly helpful for that. All right, so that is your brief introduction, and looking forward to seeing what you all come up with. Thank you.